Next on Currents News, new information tonight about the El Paso shooting suspect. His mother called the cops on her son just weeks before the massacre. When disaster strikes, charity scams follow. What you should be aware of before you donate to the victims. For many kids in the child welfare system, being a carefree kid isn't a luxury they get to experience. A camp sponsored by the Sisters of Charity is changing that one camper at a time. Plus, a Catholic organization has posthumously knighted a young hero. The boy was killed in a school shooting. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. New information is emerging tonight about the man accused of killing 22 back-to-school shoppers at a Walmart in El Paso and what cops are doing to keep him alive. Suspected shooter 21-year-old Patrick Crucius is being held on lockdown in isolation inside this detention center in downtown El Paso. A sheriff's department official says he's being held in a single 7 by 11-foot cell away from other inmates. His possible interaction with others is a major concern.
And just moving him from his area to another area, just to make sure that he's not attacked. There's all sorts of things. When he's transferred, they've got to ensure that that person makes it to trial. So as I understand, he's been held in an area where he will be safe from other inmates and safe from himself.
But according to reports, the suspect is not on suicide watch. The El Paso police lieutenant leading the team, which tracked down what they believe is the shooter's racist manifesto, saying police had to sift through a lot of false information and panic to find that clue.
We were able to uncover this manifesto relatively quickly, but we weren't able to attribute it to the suspect until later.
Investigators are piecing together information on the shooter's alleged planning, including his 10 to 11-hour journey to El Paso. The key questions they're looking at:
did he talk to anybody? Did he indicate anything at all? Do you have tape on that?
You never know who it is that's going to see the signs. And people who see the signs might assume, well, I don't know this person very well. Someone else is going to report it. That's not a great idea. If there's a problem, anyone who sees it should get involved and report it.
Former El Paso Police Chief Carlos Leon is confident this resilient community will recover, but he says residents will have serious security concerns going forward.
There will be a fear factor in all of us as we go to these larger stores, large events. Of course, we're going to be thinking in the back of our mind, hey, am I safe here? And you start looking around.
The shooter allegedly cased the Walmart before he unleashed his deadly attack on Saturday. Satisfied with what he saw among the 3,000 shoppers inside, police say he then left, armed himself with an assault rifle, and returned to commit carnage. As for the gun Crucius owned, his mother called police weeks before the massacre because she was worried about him having the weapon, an AK-47 style assault rifle. The family's lawyer said she got in touch with police in Allen, Texas, concerned about her 21-year-old son's maturity level and lack of experience with firearms. There was no follow-up to the call. In the wake of the El Paso mass shooting, U.S. bishops are deeply concerned about the racism and xenophobia that apparently motivated the killer. They are saying the anti-immigrant, anti-refugee, anti-Muslim, and anti-Semitic sentiments that have been publicly proclaimed in our society in recent years have incited hatred in our communities. We ask our leaders and all Americans to work to unite us. Generous Americans always respond to tragedies such as those in El Paso and Dayton. Tonight, Homeland Security is warning about how donations could become targets of scam artists. Meredith Wood reports.
Donating money on the internet is a gamble. With so much anonymity and very little accountability, how do you make sure your donations during tragic events don't fall into the wrong hands? According to the Department of Homeland Security Cyber Agency, here are 3 things you should consider to avoid donation scams. Number 1, research charities or crowdfunding campaigns yourself and make sure it's clear exactly where your money is going.
There's ample opportunity for hoaxes like that to be conducted, and unless a company, organization, or even an individual does their own due diligence to look into something, they may be subject to it.
Number 2, be cautious when it comes to opening email attachments. Experts say do not click on links in unsolicited email messages asking for money. Number 3, be wary of fraudulent pleas and donation ads on social networking sites. The DHS Cyber Agency also warns about door-to-door solicitations during tragedies. Even with all the scams, charitable giving can be an important part of healing after a national incident.
You do your best to be one of the good guys. You do your best knowing that, hey, there's going to be others out there that do things wrong, that do things for the wrong reasons, that are unethical. But when you go in with the right heart in the first place, everything works out.
I'm Meredith Wood.
Comfort for those who lost so much in El Paso and Dayton is coming from the loving hands of a small-town carpenter. Greg Zanis has erected white crosses for the victims killed in each of the cities, and unfortunately, many more. The Illinois carpenter has been making the crosses since 1999 after the Columbine shooting. He estimates he's placed 26,000 wooden crosses at the sites of tragedies across the U.S. Stay with us. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is moments away. He'll be talking with Ed Wilkinson about the American crisis of gun violence. That's still ahead in this newscast. Tonight, police are searching for a motive in yet another mass killing. 4 people have been stabbed to death in California. The suspect is accused of using a machete against innocent victims who were attacked at random. The killer struck at several locations in Santa Ana and Garden Grove. Police are saying the 33-year-old alleged attacker was, quote, full of anger, but they do not know why he did it.
We have no motive at this point. We don't know. It's just pure hate this guy did this. It's pure evil when this happens, and we don't see this happen every day. This is one of those things you see one time in a career.
Besides the 4 who were killed, 2 others were wounded. They're hospitalized in stable condition and expected to survive. And a hero is made a knight. Kendrick Castillo, the teen who sacrificed his life to save others, is being honored by the Knights of Columbus. The 18-year-old fearlessly charged at a pair of shooters who had invaded his suburban Denver high school last May. Kendrick saved countless lives at the cost of his own. The dedicated Catholic wanted to be a knight just like his dad. At the Knights' annual convention, Carl Anderson asked the gathering the key question.
Shall we grant Kendrick Castillo full membership in the Knights of Columbus?
Kendrick's parents were there and accepted the Caritas Medal on behalf of their son. He is only the 4th recipient to ever receive this award. News still developing at this hour, finding shelter for children after nearly 700 undocumented workers were rounded up in a massive sweep by ICE agents in Mississippi. Kirsten Holmes reports the latest.
Children begging to see their parents.
Governments, please put your hearts. Let my parents be free with everybody else.
After immigration officials rounded up hundreds of undocumented workers across Mississippi. One federal prosecutor calling the sweep of 7 food processing plants the largest single state immigration enforcement operation in the history of the United States.
Through the hard work of these men and women in law enforcement, we are once again becoming a nation of law and order.
But many officials voicing concern about the children, some of whom returned to empty homes after their first day of school. Their parents swept up in the sting.
We had some kids that didn't have anywhere to go, and so we did work with local community organizations to make sure that the boys and girls had a safe place to go.
According to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, more than 300 migrant parents have been released, and some placed on ankle monitoring during the immigration proceedings. Meanwhile, communities and organizations rallying around the children, including this gym in Forest, Mississippi, whose owner welcomed them for the night.
We're going to have bedding available for them, and we're going to get food for them just to get them through the night. And if they need transport to school in the morning, we can arrange that as well.
Kristen Holmes, Currents News.
There's a new governor in Puerto Rico tonight, but the political turmoil is not over yet. Wanda Vasquez became the island's 3rd governor in less than a week, and now her party is openly talking about their desire to see a 4th take over the position. The Puerto Rican economy has been at a standstill because no one is sure what is going to happen. Our neighbors up north in the Diocese of Syracuse welcomed a new bishop today. Bishop Douglas Lucia became the 11th bishop of Syracuse this afternoon. Cardinal Timothy Dolan celebrated his installation mass at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio also took part in the installation. Bishop Lucia will be celebrating all masses at the cathedral this weekend. We congratulate him and wish him luck in his new role. A court hearing today for the Argentine bishop handpicked by Pope Francis for a high-ranking Vatican job. Bishop Gustavo Zanchetta is accused of sexually abusing seminarians in Argentina. The court will decide if he'll face trial on the allegations. The Holy Father moved the bishop from their joint homeland to a newly created financial position at the Holy See. He's been suspended from that position. The communist regime in Beijing is ordering references to God and the Bible stricken from school textbooks. The move is the latest example of widespread crackdown against Christianity in the world's most populous country. The rulers of China fear the growing influence of the faith. According to experts, there are more Christians in China than members of the Communist Party. There's a lot more news headed your way. A special camp that's changed the lives of more than 1,000 children, and the Sisters of Charity are behind it. Pope Francis has a message for pastors: don't worry about the money. Something else demands your attention. And the Bishop of Brooklyn weighs in on America's crisis, gun violence. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. For many in the child welfare system, being a carefree kid isn't a luxury they get to experience. But one Catholic nonprofit is changing that, one summer camper at a time. Currents News' Emily Drewby has the story from Putnam Valley.
Naima used to describe herself as shy. But after 6 years at this camp, she's singing in front of a huge crowd of people during a talent show.
When I first came, I was a little scared. I'm a normally shy person. I'm not as shy as I was before.
Naima showed us around Camp Felix, a month-long overnight summer camp in Putnam Valley, New York.
You can look past all the bad things. You can look past all of that and still have fun. Having fun is the most important thing about camp.
It was co-founded 14 years ago by the New York Foundling, one of the state's oldest and largest child welfare human service agencies, created by the Sisters of Charity. All of the campers are from the child welfare system, which provides services to keep kids safe. Across New York City in 2018, there were over 9,000 kids in that child welfare system. About 1,000 kids from all over New York, including the Diocese of Brooklyn, have enjoyed the camp for free. It's a place where kids can just be kids, according to Bill Bacalini, the president and CEO of the New York Foundling.
Just looking at the smiles on these kids' faces and the way they kid around with each other. They're kids, even though these kids have been through a lot of different things, at the end of the day, they're kids.
From the rock climbing wall to the pool, kids have so much fun here at Camp Felix that they keep coming back year after year.
Just happiness, always being brought up, never being put down.
Naima says the camp has helped her grow into the person she is today. And now, just like almost 40 other former campers, she's training to become a counselor, wanting to help other kids have the same positive experiences she got to have, like Sarah.
I saw the pool. I really wanted to go there. We were able to. I was really happy. I just felt like this was home.
The brand new camper says she already wants to come back next year. Maybe in a few years we'll see her follow in Naima's footsteps and become a counselor too. In Putnam Valley, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Over at the Vatican now, Pope Francis is back from his summer break, speaking at a general audience for the first time in a month. And his message to the masses? Parishes shouldn't worry about money.
Quante volte io penso a questo quando vedo qualche parrocchia che si pensa che è più importante, sono più importanti I soldi che I sacramenti, per favore. Chiesa povera, chiediamo al Signore quello.
The Pope also said that parishes should only worry about fulfilling their authentic mission, being beacons of Christ. Continuing our coverage of the American crisis of gun violence, Ed Wilkinson is with Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio to discuss what's behind the mass shootings and how to confront them. Ed?
Thank you. And Bishop DiMarzio is with us today at the end of what's been a pretty tough week in the news. Bishop, there's been a couple of assault shootings again, one in El Paso, one in Dayton, and people are looking at this and trying to figure out what is going on in our society. What's your reaction when you hear about these mass shootings?
Oh, even one in Brooklyn, remember. Again, shootings is a sad part of our history as a country. Violence is unfortunately part and parcel of our history, and we haven't outgrown it yet. And gun violence is really the worst part of it, for sure. And we really need to do something about the assault weapons. I mean, it's regular weapons, okay? Right now, they say there's 330 million weapons in the country, more than one for every person. And that's a sad commentary on where we're at. But assault weapons that kill people indiscriminately in a very short period of time have no place in our society. We're not at war. They're not even weapons of war. It should be banned, and we have to find ways of background checks and not having those in circulation. They're already there. That's the problem. How do we get people not to use them is another story.
Right. So the Second Amendment, you have no problem with it, the right to bear arms.
No, that's a different case. That's a different story. But the founding fathers, I mean, they were thinking about England was going to come back and invade, and they wanted to be prepared. Well, nobody ready to invade us today that way, hand-to-hand combat. That's not going to happen. It may happen some other way, but not that way. And we're exaggerating what I think that principle is about.
A lot of people are saying there's a lot of mental illness in this country that people aren't catching. They're missing red flags among our youth these days. How much do you think is that involved in that?
Well, it's a puzzle that has a lot of pieces to it. Certainly mental health issues are part of it. The video games, the violence that we see constantly in movies, on television, on the videos, that is also influencing people subconsciously. That's there, that somehow violence is natural and normal. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to what's happening. But the main thing is keep guns out of people's hands, They can fantasize all they want, but when they have guns with bullets is another thing to control them. They can kill people. So that's what we have to worry about.
Yeah. What can the bishops do? I mean, bishops, of course, can make statements about things like this. Somebody called the other day. They said, "Well, why don't churches collect guns and have a?"
Well, they do actually. There has been that program here in Brooklyn and Queens that churches the police have gun collections, and people get even some money for turning them in. Usually, it's all useless guns that people bring. But sometimes it's relatives of people that say, turn that gun in. Let's not have it in our house, etc. So that works to a point, but it's a small piece of the problem.
There's also a lot of political rhetoric around this. There was a time when the Democrats were in control, the time when the Republicans were in control, but nothing ever gets done on this issue. I mean, do you think it's become like a political football that they just keep throwing back and forth?
It's a political football, certainly, but at the same time, we need some decisive action. You have the House has passed some bill right now that will limit things. There'll be background checks. The Senate seems not to be interested, but we need some good compromise to make this thing work.
Yeah. What about family life? Do you think there's been, in general, a breakdown of the family unit? Does that lead to some of this?
Well, it's certainly, you have talk about fatherless America. When half of the children are born without fathers in their homes. That's a problem. That's not going to help people grow up normally, have normal ideas of restraint and discipline. No, that is a major problem.
Yeah. Of course, in the diocese, we have a new youth initiative where we're trying to encourage new programs for young people. You think that could be a help to get at the grassroots, get young people while they're still very young?
Everything we can do, we're trying to do. We need to work with our young people. They need alternatives to the entertainment that they're used to on video games, and they need to interact with other people. That's why we have these youth programs, so there is interaction. They learn socialization. and how to respect one another. That's important too.
Great. Bishop, thanks so much for your insights on this. And back to the news desk.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. We continue to pray for the victims and their families. Still to come on Currents News, a look at what's coming up in this edition of The Tablet, the Catholic news fit for print that you won't find anywhere else. And the cross that survived an atomic bomb is headed back home. We'll be right back. This week's Tablet newspaper is packed with stories that Catholics in the Brooklyn Diocese will want to read. There's news about anti-Christian persecution coming out of Africa that could become a global security nightmare, and also a good reminder about summer vacation and the faith. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez joins us now to give us a preview of what you can only find in the Tablet. Jorge, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tamara.
Tell us about the news coming out of Africa. What is happening in Nigeria that Christians need to know about?
Well, we have a great article by John Allen, our colleague from Crux, and there are things that we need to be reminded. First of all, Nigeria is a gigantic country, 200 million people in the country, divided between Catholics and Muslims. And Catholics have been suffering from persecution for years now. And basically what John Allen is saying is there are going to be dire consequences, not just for Nigeria, but for the whole world. Why? Because it's such an important country, and because they have the largest reserve of oil in Africa. So you have to read all the details in the article, but it's a fascinating story.
Wow. Well, let's shift gears. It's summertime. People are going to the beach and having fun. How can you keep the faith while also enjoying your summer vacation?
Well, exactly. We didn't have to have just, heavy stuff in the town this week. So we have an editorial I think is very useful, but it's lighter, and it's talking about, how we still in summer, we're still Catholics, and we still have an obligation to go to Mass every Sunday. And it is an opportunity to meet new people and to know other communities different from, our Brooklyn Diocese. So wherever you go, please go to Mass on Sunday.
Well, it sounds like you can bring the Tablet to the beach with you for a good read.
Yes.
Jorge Dominguez, Editor-in-Chief of the Tablet, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
The Tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by subscribing to the Tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You'll save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And the Tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/Our Diocesan Family. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. Finally tonight, the story of how Christ's cross survived the world's most powerful weapon. The religious icon stood atop the Immaculate Conception Cathedral in Nagasaki, Japan on August 9, 1945, the day the U.S. dropped an atomic bomb on the city. The church was reduced to rubble, but the cross remained intact. It was found by a Catholic U.S. Marine and donated to an Ohio college. Now, decades later, it's going back to Nagasaki and will be displayed in the rebuilt cathedral. That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.